Next, the features of democracy is mistakes corrected in democracy, or in other words, democracy gives an opportunity to correct our mistakes. Now, what does it mean, mistakes? Actually, mistakes is related to government's policies and the work of the elected representative. Suppose in an election, if any candidate has been elected by the people, and after the election, after elected as a member of parliament, the person had failed to do for the welfare of their people and found indulged in corruption, in that case what will happen? We have just seen in democracy, no one is permanent ruler and no one is permanent loser. So those representatives or the government that fail to work as per the aspiration of the people, then the people having the right to change those government and change those representatives in next election. So by the election, people have right, people have the power to change their rulers. It is not a dictatorship or a kingship that once the ruler has been appointed, the ruler will remain in power, keep changing. One more thing, if government has taken any decision that dissatisfied a people, then people could have their right to demonstrate, to oppose through their rallies, dharnas, strikes. So these are the techniques to compel government, force government to accept their demand and withdraw those policies, or to find a new way to get the solution of their concern. So in democracy, there is a wider scope for correcting your mistakes. Once the decision has been taken, it cannot be changed. No, it can't. It can be changed. On the will of the people, on the demand of the people, government has to change their decisions. Nothing is permanent. Permanent is the interest of the people, interest of the society. So democracy enables to correct our mistakes. So it is one of the important feature, and that is completely absent in other forms of government. Now, next we will going to discuss the another feature regarding the democracy. How democracy dignify the prestige or maintain dignity of an individual. We have also gone through how democracy establish rule of law and dignify the citizens' right or dignify the individuals. So next we will discuss about this topic. Now next feature, democracy enhances the dignity of citizens. Means democracy always promote the dignity of citizens. Always. Dignity of citizens means the respect of citizens. As we know that in democracy there is a rule of law. And democracy is based upon political equality. People, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, both are having equal rights. If you remember, one vote, one value, one person means everyone having equal political right, regardless their caste, creed, language, their social status, economic status, all are equal. So democracy emphasizes upon that equality. So it means people's dignity, people's respect is supreme rather than anyone's social, economic and political status. All are equal. A prime minister is having same kind of democratic rights like a rickshaw puller. There is nothing special for prime minister. Prime minister holds power and exercises power as a prime minister, but as a citizen, both are same. They all have to stand in a queue for casting their vote. Nothing is special. So, this is one of the striking features regarding the democracy. One more interesting feature, important feature, that democracy is more accountable form of government. More accountable means governments in democracy are responsible towards the needs of the people. Government has to very much responsive to consider the demands of the people. Government has to work for the well-being of the society. This is the meaning of accountable. They are answerable. If a person has been elected by the people and a person failed to work for the people in the next election, voters are going to ask why you have not done, and they might not vote in favor of that person again. If the government fails to perform well in the parliament side, the opposition party raised the question. So they have to give the answer. So government cannot do whatever they wish. It is not dictatorship or monarchy. No one can question. In democracy, government has to function as per the rule. There is a rule of law. So rule is supreme, not the government. So over here, government is very much responsive and attend the need of the people always. So this is one of the striking features of the democracy. This way we can say that how democracy just shown its supremacy over all other forms of the government. Now, after these discussions, we are in a position to compare democracy and non-democratic regimes, and we can also easily conclude that democracy is the better form of the government. So now we are going to see a comparative study between democratic government and non-democratic government. So let's start about that comparison. Now students, here is a comparative conclusion between democratic government and non-democratic government. What I have written? Rulers are accountable. We have just seen democracy produces an accountable government, the government that are very much attentive towards the needs, aspirations, dreams of the people. But in non-democratic government, not accountable. The government run on the will of the ruler, will of the king. There is no such kind of mechanism where will of the people given importance. Next one, as we have seen, rulers are elected, means decision makers are elected. But in non-democratic regime, there is no as such elected personalities. Even elections were there, but elections are not free and fair. So, if elections are not free and fair, so it means rulers cannot be elected in its true spirit. Next one, in democracy, free and fair elections are always there. Free and fair regular election. But in non-democratic regime, even elections have been done regularly, as in China. But what happened? There is no free and fair. Only one party is there. Free and fair election means election must be free from any kind of influence. People must have opportunity to exercise their voting rights without coming under any pressure. So over here we have to finalize the things, that whether the elections are free and fair, even though irregular was there, but people must have choice also, because free and fair also comprising what? Chances, means options, means alternative, means choice. If there is no choice in the election, there is no meaning of free and fair election. Next, deal with differences. In that particular scenario, democracy is found undoubtedly excellent, because democracy is based upon deliberate discussion and negotiations before taking any bigger decision. Different group of people, those who are going to be affected by those decisions, they all have been consulted, and finally the final conclusion will be taken out, so that the decision must be accepted by all. This is one of the striking features. So decisions have been accepted by more and more people. Next, people enjoy their fundamental rights. But what about non-democratic regimes? Differences cannot be dealt peacefully, because in non-democratic regimes, decisions are being imposed forcefully. So in that way, people never accept those decisions and they retaliate. This leads to civil war, this leads to conflict in the society. And last one, as I have written, enjoy a number of rights, fundamental rights, but over here, people do not enjoy equal rights. It may be possible, some groups are having some sorts of rights, but other groups may be deprived. In non-democratic regime, what we have seen, whenever the government come in power, non-democratic regimes, they what do? They took all the democratic rights from the people, right? Like right to expression, print or the media is going to control by the government, means government is trying to put a check on the expression of the people. So these are the points on which we can also conclude that how democracy is better form of government. If you have been asked in your examination how democracy is a better form of government, you have to go with these points and you have to conclude that democracy produces best form of the government. These qualities, best form of the government. One more thing is there. This is the reason why democracy can be called best form of government. Now, while just discussing, we are going to focus upon one more thing, that is criticism of democracy. So next we are going to discuss about the criticism of democracy. Now students, there are few points related to the demerits of the democracy or drawbacks. One thing remember, whatever demerits or so-called drawbacks we are going to discuss, it is actually not the drawback of democracy. It must be clear, democracy is only a system. Democracy do not do anything its own. Democracy only creates an environment for the betterment of society with rule of law, with a responsive government, with equality. Now it depends upon the people, those who are having the power, how they are going to utilize their power. That is the million-dollar question. You are having a knife in your hand. It is your wish how you are going to use your knife. Whether you are going to cut a piece of cloth or you are going to kill a person. So this way, we have to look upon the drawbacks and demerits of democracy. So science, similar way, if you think science, neither it is a boon or curse. It depends upon the user. You are having a mobile. How you are going to use the mobile, it's your wish. Mobile cannot do anything. If you are going to use mobile for a good cause, for your study, that's well. Or if you are using mobile, only spending your time playing games or passing time on joining WhatsApp and so on, a number of other social networking sites, and wasting your time compromising with your studies, it's a wastage. It is the misuse of mobile. But mobile itself not going to be blamed. It is the user. Similarly, how we are using that conducive environment that democracy creates. If we are not using that particular opportunity for the betterment of society, it is not the fault of democracy. It is the fault of the user. So it must be clear. It is not a machine. It is not a kind of things that do anything. It's just like a mechanism. A machine cannot run its own until or unless it should not be run by someone. So how you are running the machine, it depends upon you. If there is an accident, if you are going riding a bike, if there is an accident, there is no mistake of your bike. It is the mistake of the rider. So it depends upon you, how you are going to use. It depends upon the society, how society is going to utilize that opportunity. So keeping those things, we have to analyze the democracy. So first of all, just go through some of the criticism regarding the democracy. The criticism is political instability. People says that in democracy there is a regular election and leaders keep changing. Most of the time, after every elections, new leadership is coming. It means the government are regularly changing, so every government having its own notion, own understanding. So due to that, there is political instability. There is no stability in decision making. But what we have learned? In democracy, there is a rule of law. In democracy, constitution is supreme. And every government has to follow the will of the people, needs of the people, dreams of the people. So government do only those things that help in the betterment of society. They cannot override the decisions taken by the earlier government only because that government has been replaced. No. The primary interest is the interest of the society. So this fact is not a very meaningful criticism. And one more thing, leaders are keep changing means it also creating a kind of fear to the minds of the elected leaders. If they fail to work as per the wish of the people, wish of the voters, what will happen? They will be rejected in next election. So this also keep a check on them. That fear of losing election keep a check on them to work for the people. So it is actually not the demerit or criticism. It's also a kind of merit of democracy. So that gives real power to the hands of the people. Next, criticism. Political competition and power play. Yes, it is true. In nowadays in elections, we have seen the influence of muscle power and money power. Those who are having rich rich candidates, those who are having enough money, they are trying to influence voters. With the help of money, they are going to win the elections. They were also threatening the people if they are not giving vote to the favor of a particular person or a party. So, influence of muscle power, money power is there, no doubt. Because everyone is running for winning the elections by any means. It is true, but it is not 100% true. There is some partial fact is there. If only muscle power and money power is deciding factor in elections, if with the help of money power and muscle power, people could win the elections, then once they have been elected, they never lose the election. But in India, it has been seen, rulers are keep changing very often. Most of the time, after every elections, new leadership is coming. So it is not only money and muscle power that decide the results of the elections. Yes, indeed, there is an influence, but it is not true that only money and muscle power decide the election results. I think you are getting my points. Next one, delayed decisions. We have seen since democracy, in democracy, decisions are being taken after negotiation and deliberate discussions. So it takes time. So on that particular scenario, democratic governments have been criticized that in democracy decisions have been late. But we have seen, we have gone through that these delay produce inequality decisions. So we can compromise with that. Delayed decision produce quality decisions, so we can accept that. Next one, elected leaders do not know the best interest of the people. In democratic regimes, since there is a political equality, so there is no barrier for anyone to contest election. Even a literate can contest election. Even the person who is not knowing so many things about the society can win the election. But it is not the demerit. Nowadays people are knowing who can be the best candidate, who can be the best party. So they can vote. And this is one of the beauty. So even a labor can become the leader. Very simple. It is the hard work. If people accept them as a leader, he must be a leader. So there is a two faces of the same coin. So we have to see regarding those things also. So democratic government provides equality, opportunities, and how we are using it depends upon us. Next one, leads to corruption. Democratic governments are also found corrupt. But one thing is there, whether non-democratic governments are not corrupt. If we compare the history of or records of the non-democratic regimes, we always find that in non-democratic regimes there are also corruption. In democracy, yes, indeed, having some sorts of corruption. But it doesn't mean that democracy has been rejected. If democracy is going to be rejected, what kind of government we are going to suggest it? The answer is democracy. Democracy can be replaced only by democracy. One more thing. One more demerit is there. People criticize that democracy failed to provide economic welfare, economic development. Lack of economic development. Yes, if we compare the record of democratic and non-democratic regimes, it has been found that non-democratic regimes are having slightly better record in comparison to the democratic regimes. Slightly. Means non-democratic regimes are slightly more rich than a democratic governments. It is true. But can we replace democracy with the non-democratic regimes? No. Why? Because even in non-democratic regimes, economic development is slightly higher. But what about the other features? These all are completely absent in non-democratic governments. In non-democratic regimes, decisions are being taken quickly, but those decisions don't have any logic because it is a wish of a person. There was a famine in China long back that took lives of millions of people. On the same time, there was a horrible condition in India also, but over here, very less number of people have been died. Why? Because on that time, Chinese government, since it was a non-democratic regime, they failed to take a good decision. Due to that, millions of people have just sacrificed their lives. But in India, there was a democratic government. So government has taken decision with consideration of all the aspects and all the groups of people together. So the effect of such kind of devastation in India is lesser. So democracy delayed decision but produced quality decision. One more thing. Regarding corruption, we have already seen. Economic development, we have seen. One more thing. In democracy, if we are telling it is all about political competition and power play, so I have added that once they elected any leader, they never lose the elections. But if you gone through the history of the democracies, it has been found leaders are keep changing. So while discussing these drawbacks and demerits, you have to remember about democracy is only a mechanism. It do not do anything its own. It is the we the users, how we are using this, that depends how democracy is successful. One more thing, democracy can be replaced only with the good democracies. So next we are going to discuss about some practical dimensions related to democratic regimes regarding how election results are accepted by the people, how rulers are changing. So we will see regarding that in next